Hi, welcome to Doorways. My name is Tina Paniqui, and hopefully we can have a conversation around things that resonate with you. So, something really interesting has happened to me this week, and I only really noticed it because the situation came up that a few years ago would have sent my nervous system into complete overdrive, and I'd have been incredibly stressed. So next Sunday I was meant to be flying to Dubai for a week, and I do some consultancy work for an MD of an as an MD is an accountancy practice, because the owner and his wife have gone to live in Dubai for a year. So the plan was go over there, do some time working with them, do a bit of coaching, do a bit of catching up, have a board meeting, and then have some fun while I was there. But because of the situation in the Middle East, the flights and the hotel are up in the air. The hotel was non-refundable. The flights are not covered because technically it's a conflict situation. And my mum, quite understandably so, has been on the phone saying, you can't go, there's missiles, there's bombs, which I have to say is not strictly true, but that's another story, we won't go into that. Now, normally, if I'm honest, my mind would have been straight into overdrive, and I absolutely would have been trying to control the situation, trying to work out whether I would get my money back, trying to figure out what the right decision was for me, if it's something, but this time, something really interesting happened, and I stepped back and I just thought, you know what, if I'm meant to go, the flights will open, and if I'm not meant to go, they won't, which has been a really uncomfortable position for my family because they keep saying to me, are you going, are you not going, it's cancelled, danger, danger. And I've been really quite calm about it actually, which is so different from where I used to be. And actually it's reminded me of something that happened to me when I travelled to Tanzania. I was going to Zanzibar on a goddess retreat, and at the time it wasn't funny, but now I find it, I tell it quite a lot actually as a funny tale, because my flight was leaving from London was really delayed. It was, I got a 2.5 hour connection from Doha to Zanzibar, and I knew when we took off that I was cutting it fine, because I don't know if you've ever been to Doha, but it's a huge airport. I mean, it can take 45 minutes to get from one place to another, and then it can be another 15 minutes on the bus. So as soon as we took off, my nervous system was on overdrive, and I really didn't enjoy the flight because I was worrying about, that feeling of what will happen if I miss my flight, what if I don't get there, where do I stay, what happens, I'm in a foreign country. I really set myself into a bit of a meltdown, if I'm truthful. And actually, I laugh about it now, but I'd asked on the plane, they said, don't worry, somebody will be there to meet you, they'll get hold of you. And there's all these stewardesses standing in front of the, when you got off, none of them with my name on. So I pegged it, and I'm not going to lie, when, I'd got all this hand luggage with me, I was so out of breath, and I got to the part where you do transfer flights. And to this day, I don't know why I did it, but I switched my phone on, and it was in the middle of the night in the UK, so nobody was going to speak to me, everybody would be asleep, but my phone rang. It was really weird. And there was this lady on this airport, on the other end of the line, saying, Miss Tina, we're waiting for you. And so I literally shoved my phone in front of this young lad who's in security to say, help, I don't know what to say. He took me over to this guy who's in charge of security. And he was like, you won't make it, it's too far. And there was me begging, tears were streaming down my face. You think somebody would have died. When I think about it now, I must have thought I'd seriously lost the plot. And I just was really stressed. And then I got onto the next plane, and I did get onto the next plane because this kind gentleman had got me there, and he'd rushed me through security. And then I was thinking, oh no, my luggage. And then when I landed, there was no luggage. Then that sent me into another thing. And Cindy collected me from the airport, and I'd not met Cindy before, but I talk about her a lot in my book, and she was a mentor for me for quite a long time actually. And she said, it's okay, we'll go and get you something to wear. And of course she was right, and everything did sort itself out. But oh my goodness me, for the first 3 days of that trip, my nervous system was on complete meltdown. And then really bizarrely, that on the way home, the same thing happened again, and I couldn't check in online for my flight, which immediately sent me into another one of, what if I miss my flight? What if I can't get home? And Cindy just looked at me and she was like, she didn't say this, she didn't say you're slightly mad, but she was really curious in terms of, this is not the end of the world, Tina. But to me it was, and my system, I now know, was always scanning for danger, always looking for the next problem. It was always prepared for something to go wrong. And that was the lens that I saw my life through, which was fear. But something has really changed, and I am not that person that I was then. I'm really relaxed about it. And if this Dubai situation, well, in truth, it's really heightened to me that I've so fundamentally changed, and I talk about it a lot. And indeed, I've just finished writing another book about when success isn't enough, and talks about how to, instead of striving, learn to thrive, which is what I live my life by. And not just do I live my life by it, but I also operate my business that way and encourage people who I work with to work that way. But I really genuinely hadn't figured out how stark contrast it would have been. 18 months ago, I'd have been a nightmare. I would have been a nightmare. I really would have been. And now I'm really chilled about it. Not that that's helping my mum at all, who's really stressed about it, because I haven't categorically said I'm not going. But I sound really relaxed about it. And what I really want you all to sort of think about is, how much do you live your life in fear? How much do you, or are your decisions based on fear? You might not notice, but fear's like this invisible cloak, I find, that dampens everything in life. It's not the end of the world if I don't go next week, and it's not the end of the world if the money's gone. Not because I can afford to lose money, as none of us are in that position, but it's trust. And it comes back to trust, and not being okay with, and being calm with, that you can't always take control of the outcome. And I've really lent into this over the last 18 months. I always used to be bracing myself for what was going to go wrong. And what I've realised is that trust really feels different. It feels calm. It doesn't mean that you stop caring about anything, and it doesn't mean that you stop making sensible decisions, but it does mean that you stop gripping life so tightly. And for me, that's a really big change, and one that I would encourage people to try, actually, because a few years ago I simply wouldn't have been able to do it. And maybe the doorway in here is simply this: what would change in your life if you trusted that things will unfold the way they're meant to, without needing to hold everything and grip everything so tightly, and to not have to brace?